So, 4 episodes in, and I gotta say, I am enjoying the show actually. But I gotta say, it's pretty clear at this point that they modeled this after the Netflix Daredevil show, but that was a binge. And clearly this show should have been a binge as well, which is why it was sent out that way to press. Again, I chose to wait to watch the episodes with you, so I wouldn't be saying, oh, just wait until like episode 5, 7, or 8. And so instead, we were experiencing it together. And that's what I'm experiencing, a show that should be a binge. It just really doesn't work as a weekly show because it's not designed to. Again, they didn't make it to be a weekly show. Weekly shows have more pizzazz in each episode because they know they got to hold your attention for 7 days. All a binge has to do is make you either not even click next, just let the 15-second counter go down and have it autoplay. And I gotta say, we're gonna talk about the Fisk thing. These zippers, sorry, they make a little noise. But that Fisk reveal with Adam, we're gonna talk about it. That was amazing. It was my favorite part of the show so far to date. I did appreciate Punisher showing up so early on, and they know they're losing you a little bit because he was the face on the Disney Plus interface. They were like, click on Daredevil, Punisher's here. And you were like, hot damn already? And they're like, and it's 54 minutes with credits, but it's like a 49-minute episode. And I really appreciated that. All right, so what do you think so far? Do you think it's a binge or are you okay with the weekly? And then I do think that there were some very cool moments this episode. I mean, again, I don't think it was enough for a weekly release strategy, but I was entertained. All right, so obviously, as I said, the coolest moment was Wilson Fisk going full Kingpin and enjoying his cheat meal, doing The Rock proud, next to Vanessa's missing lover, Adam, who he's got locked up in the basement. Hey, I think it shows tremendous progress that Adam isn't dead. You know, I think Fisk should be like, hey, he's just locked up down here. I mean, I love Fisk just indulging in all of his vices. I'm going to eat this. He's eating carbs with like sausage on top of it. And then he's got some guy locked up in the basement and he saved that painting that captures his brutal spirit. But yeah, that's definitely his man cave. I love it. That cheat meal though. Whew, I've been reading up on health over the past year or so and things like diet, what you're supposed to eat. And that meal was the scariest thing they've had on the show to date. Don't eat that, Wilson. I mean, it's a good thing he didn't pour himself a Diet Coke with it. I would have been like, oh, I don't know whether to join you or shake my finger at you, Wilson. Because I don't know. I don't really like onions and like fried. I don't like sauteed. I don't like mixing like fajitas, sausage fajitas with spaghetti. But I do enjoy both those things on their own. But yeah, I love that it was a cheat meal. It's so funny. All right, so that scene was incredible. But then also we got an MCU odd couple with Frank and Matt doing their best Oscar and Felix impression. They're so Oscar and Felix. But while I joke about the scene, I was also moved by the scene. That was actually a really beautiful scene about confronting how he feels about Foggy's death. I guess I didn't think about it until just this moment. I think that maybe Fisk and Vanessa are wasting their money on Matt's girlfriend who's never around. And perhaps they should go have Frank yell at them for a little bit and maybe all their problems would be solved in about 10 minutes. It's like, we had some great effing breakthroughs. I'll see you tomorrow. Or I'll find you. See, these zippers are killing me. All right, so, Matt, I think it's interesting that Foggy's death has brought Matt closer, like further into the darkness and therefore closer to Frank. And when Matt yells at, Frank's like, don't you wish Bullseye was dead? And Matt's like, justice was served. Bullseye got life. And when he yells that, you realize that Foggy's death and Bullseye gave Matt a life sentence as well. So excellent use of the justice system as a metaphor even beyond that. So from Frank yelling his guilty verdict to Matt, guilty. Not that Matt is guilty, but he feels guilty. Frank says he can see and smell that guilt coming off of him. And we're like, we've been able to see and smell it through the TV for like a week now. So Charlie Cox is doing a very good job acting. We're like, oh yeah, it's there. It's there, Frank. I smell it too. And with Daredevil's client this week, Leroy Bradford points out that Justice is blind. I mean, he's making a joke about it, but I was like, how did I miss that? How did I miss that a lawyer who not only fights for justice in the courts, but also in the streets, is blind, just like Lady Justice? I was like, oh, they should play that up more. That's great. I'm sure some of you are like, are you a real Daredevil fan? I like Daredevil. I'm not a super Daredevil fan. I'm in the Batman camp, but that doesn't mean I have not read many Daredevil stories and can't enjoy them. But they should play that up more. I really like that. Oh, and we got a Skrull mention this week. We're so hungry for crumbs that everybody's like, Skrull? Did you hear Skrull? Well, guess what? I didn't hear Skrull. I wouldn't even have known it was there if one of you hadn't tweeted me. They just said Skrull. I swear to you, I honestly thought that Leroy said, let's blame it on a squirrel. I was like, okay, Leroy. I mean, I guess technically this is a Disney story, so let's give it a try. But really, I thought he said squirrel. I mean, look, squirrels are no joke. I have more than one friend who is currently being plagued and terrorized by squirrels. So I was like, okay. But no, he said Skrull. And I gotta tell you, lip service Easter eggs, in my opinion, just don't cut it. If you're not gonna show it to me, again, show don't tell. I would go to the writer's room for this show, and it clearly is not written up on their whiteboard, and I would write it really big and be like, you guys gotta stop forgetting this. They're like, give us a bigger budget. And I'm like, lower your expectations, right within the budget, write what you can show. But I mean, I'm like, come on, it's just some guy in latex. Let's make it work if you're going to have a Skrull. But I just think, speaking of cheap, that only mentioning Easter eggs is cheap in every possible way. I really have a problem with it. Like, if a Skrull would be a reasonable defense, then that would mean there has to be a decent number of Skrulls walking around New York City. And I ain't seen one in 4 episodes. Or maybe I have. Skrulls are tricky that way because they're shapeshifters. But boy, what another can of worms for Feige up there with the multiverse. But let's pour one out. Let's pour one out for Secret Invasion, probably the most wasted comic book storyline to date in the MCU. And that's a tough competition. But I think that was the worst. Maybe because I liked the story so much and it had such a big impression on me when I read it originally. And I knew what it could have been if it had been done right. I'm so upset about that. What would you say is the most wasted comic book storyline in the MCU to date? All right, so when it comes to big strokes this episode, we finally got a good look at Evil Banksy, even though we all know who he is. He's that guy from the book signing for the psychiatrist, Muse. We saw more of his work this week as well in honor of White Tiger. Are those angel wings to honor White Tiger's murder? Or are they tiger eyes like his domino mask to show you that White Tiger is watching the city? I guess like all art, it is open to interpretation. But speaking of guesses, who do you think exactly Muse is using for his ink? Yes, we see him taking people who are alive, it turns out, and draining them of their blood. I guess he didn't want it to congeal while he transported them to his studio, which is in the subway system. But wow, and then he's hanging their corpses up on the top of his studio? That is some Gotham City level shit, and as a Batman fan, I am here for it. But let's see if Daredevil and R-rated Disney Plus can cash the checks that they write. I'm really curious to see if they can follow through on this. But so far, I'm interested. Finally, as for the big things this episode, the White Tiger most modern comic book readers are familiar with, Angela Del Toro, shows up as the niece of Hector. But wow, she's going to make for a very tiny vigilante. I mean, I also think, by the way, that she might have swiped the magic amulet from Matt with all those hugs. I was like, she's going in close a lot. I mean, why else would they establish that Matt just picked up the amulet? They were like, he's got it, and let's see if he can hold on to it. Do you think she took it? All right, so then now that we've looked at the big headlines for episode 4, let's dig into some of the details. Again, I think this show's pretty good. It just doesn't have the wow of a weekly release needs. And that I think a casual fan needs. As a comic book reader, I'm entertained. This is what I read every week on Wednesdays when comic books come out. I'm used to this kind of pacing and the story. I'm used to this. But a casual has a lot of demands on their time these days, especially just from the entertainment space. And I don't think this show is competitive enough, in my opinion. It might be taking Daredevil and Kingpin an awful long time to suit up again, but they're getting itchy. We're getting close. We're getting close. Daredevil's like, oh, I missed you, old friends. Katana sticks, or maybe he's just trying to find him. Next week we have 2 episodes dropping again at once. So they must be doing that for a reason. It must be something pretty good. But this episode, they spend a lot of time fighting the problems of local government, bureaucracy, and bad singing. Whew, that was some awful singing. And I'm not sure what the show is trying to say about those groups, or like the funding of the arts. I'm like, what are you trying to say here? Because I've never heard singing that bad. I think you'd have to work hard to sing that bad. And those groups worked real hard. It was awful. But I did think it was a nice touch that they were both trying to sing the 80s banger, We Built This City. I so wanted to jump in with the, it's 68 degrees, blah, blah, blah. If anyone is a fan of that song, it's like almost impossible not to do it. It's like, what is that thing like from Roger Rabbit? Like, you do the no tune can resist. You play the beginning of We Built This City, and any fan of the song is going to be like, I got to do the radio bit. But Fisk, of course, is trying to build the city. He is so Trump-coded, and I have to say, in a very effective and fair way. He practically said, make New York City great again on the docks tonight, and he wants to cut through all the red tape, even if some of that red tape is necessary. He's like, I want to do it now. Why can't I do it now? They're like, zoning? Some of it was ridiculous, but some of it needs to be done. His interest in tech, I was like, man, it's so there. And also keeping around dumb guys because they're insanely loyal. Is Daniel Blake going to end up being a scapegoat for Fisk? Or is he maybe smarter than he looks? Or more ferocious? Dumb guys are tricky that way. But he certainly threw a curveball to Kingpin when he apologized so profusely and proclaimed his loyalty. What do you think Blake is up to? All right, so I thought Leroy Bradford's situation, when he finally explained it, was very moving. And it was actually a great and important monologue. I loved that monologue. I was like, Murdoch, why don't you do some frickin' charity work? All right, and Murdoch, he's such a himbo flirt. I love seeing that side of him because it's so rarely done in pop culture. But the way he gets Bradford's deal down to 10 days, he was like, he's like, ooh, Lady DA, like doing his eyebrows. So great. All right, so anyway. Although again, as I said, show don't tell, not with the flirting, but with Leroy Bradford's situation when it comes to movies and film. I think that this show, what this show is trying to say about the system is incredibly important, but it would be so much more effective if it was a part of the story that we could really explore and not just a monologue. Why not have Angela be a little older, responsible vigilante size? Although maybe they're going to turn her into Daredevil's Robin? Will Marvel beat DC to the punch yet again? Oh my gosh. As a Batman fan, I'm nervous and offended in advance. Don't you do this. Don't take Robin from us first. DC has had decades to do Robin, and they've never done it. They've always blinked at the last minute. They came very close with Matt Reeves, but they're still not there. And if Daredevil does it first, oh my God. All right, so anyway, make Angela appropriate vigilante age, and have her storyline dealing with some of these elements. And then, that I think that the important note there is to condense your storyline so that the ones that are remaining get more time. I think that would have been, I think better for the story and what they were also trying to get across. Again, Angela seems so small and so young, although again, Robin-sized. And Daredevil season 2 is filming right now. And this is the downside of filming the next season while the current season airs. Because I saw a photo from the set, and Fisk assembles his anti-vigilante task force, the AVTF, and they got massive firepower. How is Little White Tiger going to go up against that? All right, so looks like things are going to get intense, though. As for who killed the OG White Tiger, thanks to Matt Murdock's super senses, he finds the bullet casing. I was like, this is New York City. How do you know that's the bullet from the murder? But luckily, the assassin put his logo on it. But in Braille? How does Matt know these things are there? I wish they would kind of explain that. He should at least show it to someone on the street and be like, you see anything on this? They're like, sir, that is a can, that's a chapstick, empty chapstick container. All right, so yeah, I mean, his super senses aren't that good. All right, so he goes to see Frank, or maybe this was just the excuse he needed to see Frank, because again, their pain has brought them closer together. When Frank says he constantly hears his dead son's voice saying, "Get him, Daddy." I was like, my goodness, that was so brutal. He made Matt Murdock cry. Matt insists that going after these dirty police or whoever killed White Tiger, because Officer Powell, who Matt Murdock sees in the hallway there and goads him into, saying, "I don't know anything about who killed Hector." But because Matt can hear his heartbeat, he knows, that's like he's a human lie detector. He knows that it didn't pick up speed so that Officer Powell is telling the truth. By the way, do you understand fully Daredevil's powers? I do. I've read the comics. I watch the show. But if you're a casual fan, it occurred to me that this show never really, this season never really reestablished it. And so I do wonder if some of you are like, what's he doing? I mean, I'm sure you're picking up the general idea, but a little sloppy on the show's part. But Matt insists that this isn't about Foggy, and Frank fires back, "It's all about Foggy." And I was like, he's right. Man, Foggy better not be faking his own death, as some of you are trying to say that he is, because this would be a lot of great writing and crying and emotion for nothing. All right, then, of course, Vanessa, who is so cool. I think we can all see why she has a hold over Fisk and why he feels she has a right to. But she's not so sure. She tells their psychiatrist that she feels perfectly safe with this guy, even though he pretty much alluded to killing somebody. But she's like, "Don't worry, he would never hurt me." But she's like, Fisky poo. Is that right? And I think it's fascinating. Of course, he says, well, what's he going to say? "No, I think you should move out." But I think it's fascinating that just like in real life, they're both shaped and warped by their parents. So Vanessa's father, this is okay to tell instead of show. I thought this was nice because it brings you closer. Zipper! It brings you closer to the characters. So Vanessa's father constantly was going on benders when she was growing up, disappearing for long periods of time. Who knows doing what? We know what he was doing. All the stuff that his wife didn't want him to do. And Vanessa said she never respected her mother for putting up with all that. Yet here she was with Fisk leaving her and turning her into her own mother. Oh, it's enough to drive any woman to insanity. That's pretty bad. It's one thing to say you remind me of your mother, but it's even more so to make it true. Oh my goodness. Because, he disappeared to go be on the Echo show. Vanessa girl, you didn't want to go on that journey. He ended up actually saving you. And also you would have lost all respect for Fisk, like we did. But I have to say, Vincent D'Onofrio is doing such a good job on these episodes so far that he's pretty much won me back. He's pretty much erased the embarrassment of Echo, his scenes, from my mind. As for Fisk, he says his father taught him all the things that have made him Kingpin. But he never taught him how to forgive. That's why would he? All right, but now it's a real bummer for his relationship, though, his personal relationship. This is a tough one to get over, though. This is a tough one. But they say that forgiveness is the highest form of love. Right, Adam? Oh, I just love that. That twist really made this episode, in my opinion. All right, so in the trailer, Vanessa and Fisk are eating, though, in that basement. So I wonder if Adam is still there. He's like, "Vanessa, baby, what's going on?" And she's like, "I'm so over you." Also, maybe Adam gets out. I thought that was a female assassin, but Adam has very long hair, and he's kind of grungy, especially after being locked up down there. And I wonder if Adam I wonder if that's Adam. I wonder if that's Adam, who also we see in the trailer attacking Fisk. All right, so clearly Fisk needs to forgive Vanessa. I think he does. I'm sure he's done a lot of bad stuff. I think that, do you think that he could? I don't know. Cheating's a big one. Cheating's a big one, in my opinion. And Matt needs to forgive himself. And Frank needs to forgive himself, too. Matt says he and Frank will never be as good as Foggy was. Frank's like, "I'm depressed enough, Matt. What are you doing to me?" But, this is me talking, that doesn't mean they can't try to be as good as Foggy. All right, so that's my breakdown of Daredevil Born Again, Episode 4. Pretty good, and I respect a lot of what they're doing here. But it's not built for weekly. So why is it releasing weekly? They know it. They sent it out as a binge. They're doing 2 episodes at a time here and there. They know they messed up. Did they learn their lesson for season 2? Is it going to be released as a binge, or are they going to design it to be a weekly? We'll see. All right, so what do you think? Share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.